They say good wine makes good blood, but it can also be just as good at making bad blood. How many times have we heard of someone committing an egregious breach of etiquette while under the influence? I've heard mages have a way of neutralizing alcohol's effects, but I expect that only applies to the dangers of extreme overconsumption. Once they are intoxicated, they're surely just as likely to loosen their lips as anyone else. Especially when speaking to ordinary bartenders like us. So then, why don't we start by bringing Alexander in here and seeing what we can learn from him, Though I would like to ask that you do the talking, if you don't mind. I'll stick to the occasional interjection. Why's that? Well, my young friend, once you reach a certain age, it becomes extremely difficult not to always appear shady, particularly in younger company. This creepy old guy keeps talking to me and trying to get me drunk. Alcohol? I'm not sure I understand. You want me to have a drink now? Under these circumstances? Well, alright. They have a saying for this in China. You can't catch a tiger cub without going into a tiger's den. In other words, nothing ventured, nothing gained. Those other two have been mages a lot longer than me. So if I want to get ahead, I'll just have to go out. I've just got to take a leap in without fear. Besides, I'm sure you two have some useful info on your own. Here you go. No sign of magical energy, let alone poison. But I guess that's to be expected. So, what do you call this? That is a dry martini, the king of cocktails. Seeing how you have an air of royalty about you, I thought it would be fitting. Huh, never heard of it. That's because it is yet to be invented. Hey, that's pretty good. It is okay for you to drink, right? You're saying I look underage? Well, don't worry, I'm not. I'm just doing what I can to keep the ravages of time at bay. Though, of course, I don't expect any other mages would take it easy on me just because I look like a kid. Do you think you've got a good shot at the auction? Well, that's what I came here to find out. Can I get another one of these? Use the information I gave you earlier, Master. Well, you know, Yanqing's organization is... now I see. So all three groups are dancing on a razor's edge. Well, damn. Now what do I do? I originally contacted Diarmud's group because I had heard that they were the biggest player here. But if they're that closely tied to the city, that's really gonna hold me back. Not to mention that between the three of us mages, my family's got the shortest history. Is there a problem with that? Well, mages are all about passing power down through generations. My family's only been at it for 300 years. But those two have families that go back 500 and 700 years. That said, my magecraft is pretty well suited to combat, so that could tip the scales in my favor. Well suited to combat, you say? Yep. You know about centaurs, right? The legendary half-human, half-horse creatures. Yep, sure do. I'm sure they were incredibly fast, but that's not the only reason they were so strong. No, they were strong because they focused all of their attention on pinpoint precision with their arrows, even while running at those incredible speeds. Concentration is key, not just in magecraft, but in everything. If people could concentrate like a centaur, it would improve their abilities tenfold across the board. Even if you don't have a lot of magical energy to work with, if you focus, you could squeeze every last drop you have right into your magical circuits.
So you mean something like an energy-efficient battery?
Battery?
Think of it as a kind of energy engine. So you use your body so efficiently that you're able to boost not just combat abilities, but all abilities in general. Quite the superhuman training regimen.
Well, anyway, you're going to pump the other mages for information too, right? I sure would appreciate it if you let me in on what you learned too.
A mage who tries his hardest to compensate for being the weakest, That's an admirable attitude with which to go into battle. But it would seem to make him something of a poor ally for Diarmid.
How so?
Left to his own devices, Alexander would surely do whatever it takes to win. But Diarmid is more concerned with playing by the rules and winning fairly and honorably. It may not be an issue in the beginning, but by the end, the disparity of their methods could very well spell their doom. Now then, why don't we see what Prince of Lanling has to say?
Alcohol, huh? I see nothing to fear. I would have no trouble breaking alcohol down with one hand tied behind my back, after all. I'm happy to drink this if it will help me acquire information.
Coming right up, sir.
Sugar, sugar, sugar.
Here is your cocktail. This is called a silver bullet.
Silver bullet?
Indeed, that is what you use when slaying monsters, is it not?
So it's a good luck charm, is it? Well, I suppose I'll need all the help I can get. Alexander I can handle, but Vlad is a formidable opponent. Well, what if you and Alexander teamed up then? That is a good idea. And I'm sure Alexander would also prefer to go up against me rather than Vlad. But I don't think Yanqing would go for that. Then again, I suppose if I want to know, I'll have to ask. And he does need to understand that Vlad III is our greatest threat. What's Count Vlad like as a mage? Well, the rumor is that he uses blood as a catalyst for his magecraft. Whether that's true or not, I do know that both his magical crest and magical circuits are stellar. His magecraft may not be focused on combat, but I doubt that he will have any trouble keeping up. As for Alexander... Oh, imitating centaurs, huh? If that's true, it would seem to have very narrow applications. But I suppose it would also be rather difficult to predict. Thank you for the drink, it was delicious. I think I'll go see if Alexander would be amenable to working together. What is my magecraft like? How silly to think that I would tell you that. The very basis of magecraft is secrecy. That is as true today as it was in ancient times. That said, it would not be difficult to figure out if you examined my magical lineage. I hope tomorrow's auction goes smoothly, for all our sakes.
Alright, and that just leaves Count Vlad, though who knows if he'll actually come. I have come. You have? How in the world did you convince him? It's simple, bartender. Your pupil there was unfailingly polite when he expressed his wish to entertain me. It was clear that he meant every word, and I intuited no signs of malice whatsoever. And so it is only proper that I accept his invitation, lest it reflect poorly on me as a mage. Now come and celebrate my victory, bartender. Very well. May I suggest a Bloody Mary? You may. I know nothing of alcohol and its intricacies in any case. I see. So that bastard Prince of Lanling told you about my magecraft, did he? Even if he did avoid going into detail, I can't say I enjoy having someone else share my secrets. Not to mention, it seems a tad unfair that he insists on keeping his own magecraft a secret. So go ahead and tell Alexander this. Prince of Lanling's magecraft is based on beauty. He uses curses to entrance his target and bring about their downfall. However, while that may work on ordinary men, it will have no effect on me. If anything, it is Alexander who may hope to stand against me. All that remains is to see how much money Izo is able to and willing to pony up. But these men are no fools. They are willing to make great sacrifices if it means gaining control of this city. I still don't know much about alcohol, but I do like this brilliant red color. Once I have obtained the catalyst for myself, I think I will celebrate with another of these Bloody Marys. Well, he certainly was the most imposing, wasn't he? Though he also seems not so much guarded as oblivious?
Yeah, I'll go with oblivious.
Alright, now that we've got more information to work with, let's see if we can't make some sense of it. First of all, while these mages share a name, body, and personality with the servants they appear to be, they are not actually those servants. I trust you've already understand that. The Vlad III we spoke to may sound like the same one we know, but in reality he may speak completely differently, even boorishly. And for that matter, Prince of Lanling may not even be from China. But we perceive them as the servants we know, and thus hear their words in a way matching that perception. The same thing happens whenever we speak to them. Before our words can reach their brains, they are processed to fall in line with their perceptions. That is why we can address an ordinary mage as Vlad III without causing any problems.
This is getting confusing.
If you think that's confusing, wait until you hear this next part. Since each of these three gangs are working with one of the mages, you might think there are only 3 factions at play here. But, in actuality, there are 6. Each faction is trying to obtain power and treasure to realize their own ambitions. And we
are going to swoop in at the end and take it all for ourselves.
My, you are just a cunning devil after my own heart, Master. But no. As for our exact plan of action, I think that can wait until tomorrow. If I've read the situation correctly, something will happen at the auction. For the time being, we had best take the opportunity to rest while we can to prepare for tomorrow. Well then, good night.
I can't sleep.
Oh, up already, are you? It's not even daybreak yet.
I just couldn't really seem to sleep.
I see. Well, in that case, perhaps it would help if I told you a story from my own admittedly checkered past.
Sure, I'd love to hear a story.
In truth, much of my life was actually quite dull. What's that? Is it because I'm a fictional character? Well, I'm not so sure. Am I a fictional character? Or did James Moriarty truly exist at some point? Did the events that make up my past truly happen? At this point, that is really not so important as distinction as you may think. All that really matters is that I'm here now. My childhood memories are all rather hazy. There is only one thing that I remember from them: equations. I remember their cleanliness, the beauty inherent in their structure, how gentle they could be, and how terrifying. It is thanks to equations that one can determine precisely where a ball will land once thrown. I think, back when I was just a boy, I would often ponder why no one else seemed to realize their appeal. Once I had reached what most would consider an adult age, I wrote a book. The Dynamics of an Asteroid. But it never saw the light of day, thanks to the mathematicians who saw it buried before it took off. But honestly, I can't say I was surprised. I knew all too well how petty and guarded people could be. All the more so once they realized the terrifying implications of my book. Still, despite my lack of surprise, I was at a loss as to how to respond. How then was I to verify the equation therein? I remember cocking my head and thinking to myself, now what am I going to do? I didn't want to go my whole life without ever knowing if that equation was correct or not. This may make me sound like a petulant child, but I simply did not like that idea. Not one bit. I was sure I could prove my equation was correct. I had to prove it was correct. So, I decided to turn to evil. Why? Well, I suppose I cannot possibly expect you to understand that part, no. I wanted to prove beyond all doubt how beautiful and terrifying my equation was. So I swore I would do whatever I must to make that happen, and eliminate anyone who stood in my way. From there, I devoted myself solely to calculating one thing. How could I go about proving this equation to the world at large? And the conclusion I reached was that I must turn to evil. As an evil man, I would use this equation to wreak destruction upon the world. My next step was to form an organization. I mixed intricate schemes into evil that typically tended towards straightforward simplicity. I provided wisdom and intelligence to evil that typically resorted to brute strength and violence. I piled up evil deeds upon evil deeds until, one day, that accursed detective brought me to justice. Well, what did you expect? A fair point. From my perspective, I thought I was just advising everyone to take notice of me. But once they started calling me genius, scum, morally bankrupt monster, and the Napoleon of crime, well, I suppose I let all of that go to my head. But regardless, Gouda, even with all of that said, I don't regret my decisions to turn to a life of evil. There is two reasons for that. I enjoyed myself immensely. Yes, I admit it, I truly am morally bankrupt. But in spite of that, or perhaps because of it, I can say without a doubt that few have enjoyed their lives so thoroughly as I enjoyed mine. It was grand fun to see people playing into my hands, and even more fun to see them falling into my traps. Watching them stumble off a cliff, or trip on a pebble, or have a vase come crashing down on them were some of the greatest moments of hilarity I ever witnessed. Talk about chaotic evil. Indeed. Of course, it isn't as though I was riding high for the rest of my life. I met my end tumbling down the Reichenbach Falls. It was a miserable end, but properly befitting a criminal like myself. And to make matters worse, the man I tried to drag down with me ended up surviving. I remember how ashy gray the sky was that day, at a time that was neither morning nor evening.
how the icy cold waters seemed to scream like machine gun fire. It's quite strange, really. Why in the world did I challenge him to a fist fight? If I am merely fictional, then I'm sure I did so purely to satisfy the demands of the plot. But if I did actually exist, then I think I understand. I must have wanted to show him what a villain like me is truly made of. All right, now, back to bed with you. Surely you must be bored enough now to drift right off. Wait, what about the other reason? Oh, come now. Do I really have to spell it out? Because if it wasn't for my life of crime, I would never have gotten to meet you. Now, don't be bashful. Even aged gentlemen like me are, at times, prone to sentiment. All right, that's quite enough now. Off to bed with you. Good night. Time for the auction, huh? All right, let us see what happens today. Come quick! The relic's been stolen! Did you say stolen? What a surprise. It's scary seeing them all on edge like this. Not one word. Anything could set them off right now. As you can see, the Linden Leaf, the perfect catalyst with which to summon Siegfried the Dragon Slayer, has been stolen. What sort of security measures did you have in place? As I demonstrated to all 6 of you yesterday, I didn't leave it anywhere that an ordinary thief could have taken it. True, but that wouldn't be much help if the thief was a skilled mage. Oh, I'm surprised to hear you so willingly giving voice to your own ineptitude. That aside, I can say from what I saw yesterday that the Catalyst's defenses focused on alerts. And what's that mean? It means we should have heard an alarm blaring throughout the mansion, no matter how it was stolen. That security spell has been passed down in my family for generations. But I'm no mage, so I have no real idea of how it works. You two, as mages yourselves, surely you understand. Magecraft may be capable of anything, but it is far from perfect. To steal the catalyst without setting off the alarm would require 2 skilled mages working together. Even I could not do this alone. So, what? You're saying the 2 of us are in cahoots? If you ask me, I think it's way more likely that the owner faked this theft so he could keep his heirloom for himself. I can only say that I would never do such a thing. I have no reason to want to keep it for myself. It's nothing but a burden for me. As it plays such a valuable part in Holy Grail Wars, there are no end to people who have designs on it. Trust me, I have no irrational attachment to it just because it happens to be a family heirloom. Well then, who did steal it? Now what do? This is quite the pretty pickle. Yanqing. Given that the blame for this theft lies with Zhig, I suggest we... Now I see, it was you. Oh, interesting. Care to repeat that? No, it's okay. You don't have to hide it. I mean, you and Zhig go way back, right? It makes perfect sense for you to cut a deal ahead of time. How dare you? Yeah, act offended all you want. Doesn't change the fact that you're still the most likely suspect. Well, well. I knew not to expect much in the way of manners from a man of the sea. But if you're willing to goad us into a fight, you have more guts than I thought. Just so we're clear, I didn't steal it. If anything, I had a better chance in the auction. It wouldn't make sense for me to go into the trouble of stealing it. I did not steal it either. If anyone here would have a motive to steal it, wouldn't that be the skilled mage with the least money to spend?
Oh ho?
I mean, that makes sense to me. Your family might have a long history, but they haven't done well keeping up with the times. The whole reason you're taking part in the subspecies Holy Grail War is because you need money, right? Prince of Lanling and I both have money to spare, so there's no reason for either of us to assume the risks involved is stealing in it.
That sounds like a challenge to me.
Wait, please wait. I'm begging you, don't fight here. I have a suggestion. Everyone here, human and mage alike, has their own possible motives, and their own reasons to be suspected. So I say we at least let everyone make their case to someone impartial, without any stake in this outcome. Oh, I don't like where this is going.
Indeed, you have every reason not to.
Mr. Moriarty, Gouda, I'd like for you two to be the judges. I do not, however, want you selecting suspects. I only want you to determine who we can rule out. Once we know that, we should be able to resolve this. I'll do my best. Thank you.
However, we do have one condition.
What is it?
It's quite simple. We can't leave ourselves open to accusations of bribery, or this will all be for naught. So I would like a mage from an opposing faction to be present during our questioning. For examples, when we speak to Alexander, I would request that either Count Vlad or Prince of Lanling be present. Though of course, I will also insist that they refrain from comment during the proceedings.
That sounds safe and reasonable. I trust all of you are okay with that.
Fine with me. Then I shall go first. One of you, come with me.
Alright then, I'll go.
The thief is almost certainly Prince of Lanling.
And how can you be so sure?
I know that I did not steal it. And Alexander has the least reason to steal it himself, thus by the process of elimination it must be Prince of Lanling. He is the only mage here whose power is ill-suited to fighting a Holy Grail war. And if he wished to resell it, he would not want to waste his own money in an auction. Furthermore, Prince of Lanling's magecraft is particularly well-suited to thievery. He could have easily used his beauty to manipulate others into doing his bidding. But let us not forget, Count Vlad, that you have just as much of a motive as he does.
They did say you've been having financial difficulties.
That is true, but I was also quite confident in my chances at victory. I would never resort to petty larceny to acquire what I desire. And so I believe the guilty party is Prince of Lanling, and ask that you proceed accordingly. That is all I have to say.
So Count Vlad will be the one to keep an eye on me. I think it was Alexander, though. And why is that? From where I stand, he is the most suspicious of those present by far. Yes, on the surface it may seem like he has the least motive. He is certainly the richest of us thanks to his dealings with legitimate businesses. But if you consider it from a different angle, wealth is all he has. He has no connections to the Mages Association, so taking part in the subspecies Holy Grail War is the only hope he has to advance. If he failed to win the auction, he would have nothing left at all.
Oh? I'm not sure I follow. How would losing the auction leave him off any worse than before, then?
You mean you didn't know? We each had to pay an enormous fee just for the opportunity to bid. And we don't get it back if we lose. So, if by some chance he did end up losing the auction, he would then be no more than a penniless third-rate mage. Whereas Count Vlad and I both have our legacies to fall back on. It seems to me that the ability, or lack thereof, to pick oneself up again after a setback would be a substantial motive. Don't you agree? Whatever the others might say, I know I didn't take it. So I can only guess it was Count Vlad. I'm pretty sure Prince of Lanling has enough money to go toe-to-toe with me in an auction after all. Of course, if push came to shove, he could always have resorted to trying to take it by force. But if that was his plan, he could have just waited until after the auction was over. So yeah, I think I have to go with Count Vlad here. Pretty sure the Count has thought up some kind of plan. I'm sure that he was just bluffing. He might be a talented mage, but it still would have been risky for him to come under the spotlight there. Not to mention Izo's gang doesn't seem like they'd be of much help. Oh, and hey, I just remembered we had a deal, didn't we? Did you find out anything useful? Prince of Lanling uses... I don't mind you sharing what you know. Information that basic will come to light soon anyway. Magecraft that charms targets with beauty, huh? I'm sure it has its uses, but he'd be the first to die in a Holy Grail war unless he had a powerful servant. But anyway, figuring out which of them stole it isn't automatically going to bring it back. Wait, hang on. I just had a thought. Maybe someone in one of the city's gangs got greedy. That relic is damn near priceless after all. Someone might have gotten in touch with another mage to try and sell it for an even higher price. Anyway, that's all I've got to say. Oh, the sound is breaking in the background.
Care for a drink? For you, we've got water and dihydrogen monoxide. Which would you prefer?
Well, that's just water, Moriarty.
You know I can't go letting you have alcohol. Anyway, I'd say we learned some rather interesting tidbits so far.
He's chaotic evil. He'd totally give us alcohol.
Every one of them insisted they had not committed the theft. And they all named someone different for the culprits. Money, skill in magecraft, and timing. All three of them enjoy success in one area, but none of them have it all.
Then how are we supposed to tell who did it?
A good question. Each of them is suspicious, each had motive, and certainly each had opportunity. And on top of all that, not a one of them has an alibi. A wonderfully convenient state of affairs for whoever is behind this, wouldn't you agree?
What do you mean by that?
Oh, come now. Don't tell me you've forgotten. This all took place in the past, so I happen to know what occurs next. With each side's agent suspecting the other, the three gangs will wage a battle so fierce that it envelops the entire city, resulting in tremendous loss of life. At least, that is the outcome as I heard it.
Oh, sorry, I forgot.
Well, I can't blame you for that. I almost forgot too. Now then. Given what we already know and just learned, I did some digging on my own. Eavesdropping on the various gang members' conversations, stealing a glance at their ledgers, that sort of thing. And as it turns out,
well, I know a lot more now than I did before, but...
oh, if it isn't the apprentice bartender.
Good evening. You shouldn't be wandering around so late at night, not with this mansion's security being so lax. Kind of refreshing hearing him talk like this.
I was born in the city, you know. I plan to die here as well. That may not mean much to you since you're not from here, but for me, there could be no better end. But with each year that passes, that seems less and less likely. Between all these telegrams and now ships circling the globe, the world just keeps getting smaller. And while I've never seen one myself, they say they even have ships that can fly nowadays. Ships have allowed this city to flourish, and now everyone wants a share of the profit for themselves. I just hope to prevent that desire for profit from breaking out into a war.
Are you thinking about retiring?
How did you know that? Yes, I am. I think I've been in this game as long as I can stand. Anyway, I'd better be on my way. This wind is absolutely freezing.
Oh god, the sound is just breaking apart at the seams. Can you hear it? The crackling of static? Sorry about this, chat. The only way to fix it would be, well, we're gonna fix it. We're gonna fix it and fast forward right back there. Sorry, everyone. And we're back right where we left off, and the music is no longer stabbing my ears with static. Perfect.
So the geezer's finally acting his age, huh?
You hear that, apprentice? The old man wants to retire.
What a joke. Once he retires, that'll be it. This city becomes one big battleground.
Me and Yanqing will be fighting each other tooth and nail for control of the place. And in the end, some outsider will just come waltzing in and take it all for themselves. This city's only going to get bigger and bigger. We can't go closing it off to the outside world. I can't blame Yanqing's gang for going wild sometimes. Frankly, people have even started complaining about them to me. They say they see them being rowdy at restaurants or getting drunk and all kinds of petty stuff like that. Are you sure you don't want to reconcile with them? Believe me, I wish it were that simple. People in our business don't take the peaceful approach seriously. That's just the way of the world. By the way, that bartender friend of yours is pretty strong, isn't he? From the looks of it, I'd say he's... Nah, never mind. You don't seem the bloody sort. Nothing wrong with that. If only the world was a little simpler. Oh, hey, it's the apprentice kid. You figure out who the thief is? Oh, on second thought, don't tell me. I think it'd only complicate things if I found out now. I saw Izo grumbling. Something happen? Sounds like he's got it rough. And of course, his men are all brutes. He's the only one in that gang who actually thinks before he acts. Still, I know what he means when he says he wishes the world were simpler. It's been 20 years since me and my crew wound up in this city, but they still refuse to accept us. It's hard not to get a bit depressed when you can't even go out for a meal and not have it be a big deal for people to bitch about. So I decided to bring everyone together. To make the city admit they needed us. But now we've got mages involved and we're all fighting for control of some weird relic. I don't even know what to make of it. Life is freaking bizarre, and there's no knowing what's what, you know? Sounds like you've got it pretty rough, too. Some things you just have to suffer for. Well, at least that's what I want to think. Though, honestly, I'd rather be living on Easy Street. I mean, who wouldn't? So don't go making the same mistakes I did, kid. Make sure you choose a fun life, not a hard one. Oh, easier said than done, right? Tell you what, if you ever decide to settle down in this city, that's when I'll listen to your sob story. But anyway, I probably shouldn't be seen talking with you for too long. So, see you tomorrow. Good night.
I can't say I approve of you going off on these nighttime walks without a servant. But then, there are guards from all three gangs keeping an eye on things. I suppose the odds of something dangerous happening are... Well now, how is that for timing? But what could they possibly be thinking going after us? I'm not sure whether they're out to make a show of their incompetence or to actually take out their rivals. In the end, it won't matter if they manage to take us out or not. Just the fact that they tried it is an egregious violation of trust. As for why they would go to such deplorable lengths... but I'm getting ahead of myself. Once again, now is not the time.
Oh, come on now, we need to fight.
Right you are. That they all have firearms trained on us would seem to be a clear expression of hostile intent. So, I have no compunction against crushing this lot. Oh, and by the way, this may come as a surprise to you, but I am quite potent in a fight. Alright then, let's show these goons what for, my young bartender master. What's all the commotion?
Huh? I thought I heard gunshots.
Oh, don't worry, everything is under control, just a slight misunderstanding. I assure you we're quite alright. Now go on and get out of here. Listen to me. If you three get mixed up in this now, it will only make the situation worse.
Alright, Yanqing, Izo, I trust you're both okay with that too. Fine by me. I'm going to bed. I've had enough of this shit for one day.
There we go. I don't think we would have gained any pertinent information from questioning them anyway. Now then, tell me, Master, who do you think sent those thugs after us? Diarmid, Yanqing, Izo, Alexander, Prince of Lanning, Vlad III?
Of course none of them. They're all innocent. There's only one true culprit there could be anyway.
Every one of them is a viable suspect. They all have motive, opportunity, and the money with which to hire the thugs we've just dispatched. However, just because they had motive, opportunity, and money to send people after us, does it necessarily follow that they would do so? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think any of them are the type to go after someone like me.
Yes, exactly. The rules for these kinds of skirmishes don't apply to you. They are, of course, citizens of the underworld and mages, respectively. Were it truly necessary to achieve their goals, I have no doubt they would kill us. But by that same token, they would not go out of their way to kill us when there is no pressing need to do so. Anyway, tonight is the final night, making tomorrow the final morning. The morning when everyone shall draw the losing straw and lose something precious to them. All right, Master. Let's bring this case to a neat, tidy close.